mean, he called me up a fortnight ago, and then he said, okay. Then we started having discussion. Why do you want to have this topic? I mean, although just because the topic is close to me, I will be sharing that. It's not important. It's important that they have chosen this topic to showcase, is because life safety is a topic of everyone interest, right? So thank you, audience. I think you are putting option chat option as me, so I'm sure everybody is in agreement. So life safety is a topic of everybody's interest. I mean, we know that it's my life, it's my safety, so as is my responsibility, right? It is not somebody else's responsibility. So if suppose I'm trying to, some if a person is trying to cross the road, and a person in opposite direction is driving a vehicle which is in speed mode, who is to be blamed? Is it a person who is walking across the road? He should be caring for his safety, or a person who is driving? He should be also looking at the person in front of me is also walking on the road. You cannot say it's only driver fault, right? It's equally important that the person who is crossing the road also should take care of his own life safety, its own safety. So people need to have a little change in mindset or a paradigm shift. I would say that when we look at life safety as a topic, so nobody thought 2 months before that incidents or an event like a COVID can happen to India, right? I mean, nobody thought. But then today we are in that probably pandemic situation that every Indian human being in this country or on this planet is facing the issue. So do we have a control? Maybe we do not have a control. Can we block COVID immediately? No. But then what is best in our hand is to minimize the impact. So at least by remaining in our home, that's what the message of government is talking about. Stay home and stay safe is nothing but to protect yourself. So what is our responsibility is to remain at home, so that we are protecting ourselves. We are not also hampering somebody else's life. So this is very important. What best we can do is that we can minimize the impact, but we cannot eliminate the risk. That's a mool mantra of life safety, and I think everybody should be happy doing that. But I'm sure you would have liked this image, and people when they start the day, whether it's a rickshawala or a professional, probably they believe in this kind of an tool, which is a belief. I'm not against of any specific mindset, but if you are shifting a responsibility of somebody else, and giving that responsibility on a God, then I think that is something serious concern. Am I right? So if you are starting a day saying that uh, nothing is going to happen to me, God is going to take care of it, and then I don't do anything, I remain the way that I want to do, then it is not something that safety can help you with, right? So I'm sure you agree with this note, but you can always look at the myth, yeah, and I'm sure you must have also faced the same situation like what I have in last 27 years of my experience in specifically India market. When we try to approach any facility owner or any building owner, probably he'll come up and say that, okay, probably in last 20 years nothing happened to me or nothing happened to my property, so probably I feel that I'm protected. I mean, exactly the same thing what I'm talking about today. We never thought that an incident like this today can occur to India, and we never have prepared ourselves. And that's how we are struggling to cope up with that scenario. And probably this is what the mindset that everyone should be aware about. Nothing happened doesn't mean that it will not happen to you tomorrow. It is not going to knock your door and saying that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be coming to your building. COVID-19 is my name. So are you prepared? Right? so so this is not something that a mindset people should have, and then decide a parameter that, okay, nothing has happened in last 20 years, so probably I don't need to look at, or I don't need to prepare myself. And the second myth is very, very common. Again, there are no absolutely offended against any individual or any mindset or against religions. I also believe on a universe and a nature. But then when we are looking at a life safety as a parameter, people always carry a concept that there is a Bhagwan. Okay, he is there to protect me, and I'm sure there is someone to protect me. So that doesn't mean that you are not actually responding to your own life, right? So I think this myth, we definitely need to shatter it out. And today probably COVID has already uh, helped in learning the lesson. I mean, everybody has learned the lesson out of this event, that of course somebody is there to take care of you, but ultimately it's your effort, it's your actions, it's your thought process is also going to be equally important when it comes to life safety, right? So this is what the concept that I want to talk about in next probably 40 to 45 minutes. But just to give you a snapshot on specifically what are the risk associated, right? What are the incidences that can emerge as unsafe acts? I mean, first and foremost, of course, everybody knows fire is very common. I mean, even though we are in a pandemic situation, fire incidences are still happening. Although there are less movement, there is less, kind of an activity going on, but still you see that seldom somewhere in one of the market or some of the complexes has got a fire. So this fire as a hazard, as a risk, is going to happen. It's going to be there, exist all the time, whether you work, whether you don't work, right? So I think in terms of natural disasters, fire is the one that is very very predominant, and I think we are going to focus more on this part specifically. But apart from fire, we all for know that flood is also very very common, which is going to be the scenario. And on top of it, you can always look at the man-made disasters, right? Biochemical. What is right now we are facing is nothing but the biochemical disaster, which nobody thought, right? Bhopal gas. Nobody thought that something can disaster that can happen to them. World War, nuclear. Nobody thought that something can damage to a level to that extent, and human can be a victim of it. So if you look at it in a predominantly, of course, I'm not going to cover the lightning or specific as such, but I'm just looking at very very predominant factors that are directly going to impact on life safety: fire, flood, earthquake, and man-made disasters as biochemical or chemical or nuclear are going to be the concern. And I'm sure everyone is important to be aware about those disasters, and we ourselves have to be prepared. Of course, at the society level, at a country level, our measures are important, but it's equally important that everybody in this as a citizen of the country must be aware about those disasters and how we are going to mitigate those risks as such. And as I mentioned to you, we don't have a control on any of the events, right? Fire, do you have a control? Definitely not. But what control we have, we can minimize the impact, right? Flood. I mean, although there is a prediction by meteorological department that you will have a rain of this nature, very high, moderate, or low, but then does it going to be really happening or no? We have no control. So at best, what is important or what is needed is that in case there is any eventually that it happens, how I'm going to protecting my life, right? How I'm going to protecting my society, so as my nation. So that's very important, and I think at a broader level, everybody as a citizen of the country must know all this concept. I mean, I'm not going to looking at technicalities of all the topics, right? Today I am going to be just covering basics, so that your fundamentals are very clear, your mindset is to be very very clear, and when you live your life, whether it at your home or at office or at workplace, at the back end, there is always a sense of responsibility that somebody has to do. And this is what I'm going to touch upon in next a couple of minutes to you, and I'm sure you will agree to that. Overall, if you look at it, uh, the uh, the uh, the society or the public in nature, we can always categorize into various categories. I mean, of course, we have got 130 crore of population, and when you are discussing a life safety, people will say that okay, no, no, maybe I may not have that role, but technically, I will tell you every stakeholder involved in this 130 crore of population is directly, indirectly responsible for life safety. I mean, I'll just give you a snapshot on that how it is going to be important. Like first community I want to take about is spanner. I mean, we can always come across. A lot of architects, building planners, consultants, right? It could be MEP consultants, fire consultants, structural consultants. So all consultants are nothing but planners. So any community, any segment which is going to be involved at the beginning of any new building or any new facility is considered as planner. So that's a one segment of community. Second community is basically integrators. Like I'm sure Evagro is educating a lot of integrators in their community, and why their objective is to train them because ultimately they are responsible for executing what planners have thought about it, right? So if there is a design, if there is a plan available, then it's integrator responsibility to make sure that it happens in reality. Okay, so that's the integrator role. It could be contractors, it could be construction guys, it could be all the system installation guys, commissioning guys, anything that relates to construction, installation, commissioning activities. So field activity. That's what we call as the integrator community. So that's predominantly which is going to be sitting there and have very important role. And the third community that I want to talk about here is AHJ, authority having jurisdiction, right? So what is authority having jurisdiction? The people who have authority in giving the permissions. Typically, government agencies. It could be fire officers. It could be municipal corporation guys. It could be pollution control bodies, or it could be forest people, or it could be any inspection guys, testing guys, code guys. So anything who is related in identifying the requirement, inspecting the requirements, testing the requirements are nothing but holding this particular community, AHG, authority having jurisdiction. So again, that's a third line of segment that we probably can differentiate within our community. And the last is whosoever is not representing this three community is going to be occupant, user, like you and me, right? Of course, architect, even though he is an architect, a professional, but I'm sure he is residing in one of the complex, so he becomes a technically occupant of that society, isn't it? Right? So ultimately, although he is an architect by profession, when he is discharging his role at his office, but when he comes back to our house, his home, his residence, he is an occupant to that particular society, and then he is to abide the roles and responsibility as an occupant for that society when it comes to building safety, when it comes to life safety, isn't it? So occupant is nothing but predominantly all these society segments, every citizen of the country. But again, typically, if you identify them separately as a community, we can always look at what's their role. So if you look at it overall, all the people we can differentiate in this four community, and we can identify what's their role, and we can always come up with saying that every role in this community is very critical. Critical in what way? Critical because everybody is responsible for drafting the safety of that particular building or a life. Right. As I mentioned to you, the planners, the integrators, the AHA, and as well as occupants. So each one is responsible for their own actions as well. Because if there is a system which is already maintained in that particular building, so ultimately it's nothing but an owner's or occupant responsibility, isn't it? So that's again very responsible role. And ultimately, the gray area I would say in India specifically is accountability. People do not accept that this is my responsibility as well as I'm accountable for it. So when it comes to when the responsibility gets coupled with an accountability, then it becomes really a good mandate, and I'm sure it will result into actions. But today, the probably gray area is that people understand that they are responsible, people understand that's critical, but people don't accept that it's my accountability, and that's what the gap is. It's really fundamental. I'm trying to cover upon, and it's purely my analysis, but I'm sure you will agree with this. Just to take this forward, I will talk about what is everyone roles, and this is the slide which is going to talk about it. Same community that we discussed, how equally they are important and contributing in terms of responsibility. When I'm making a statement, safety is everybody's responsibility. This is what I mean. When we look at the planners, what is their role? I mean, when an architect is actually designing a building, or an MEP designer is actually putting that system in place, it's ultimately drafting certain level of safety in that particular building, right? Or a facility. It could be school, it could be hotel, it could be hospital, it could be a resident building, it could be resort, or it could be anything, right? Anything built environment, when planner is involved, he is or she is putting in that effort so that this is a life safe compliant building, right? Isn't it? So it's again important role when they design, engineer, plan a specific building or occupancy as such. So this is what their responsibility or their role. Then it comes to a integration when they get a design from specific community, which is architects, MEP consultants, fire consultants, stuff like that. Make sure that they understand very clearly the requirement and they put it in place. They put the plan into execution. Okay, so that's what the real role comes to integration, because at any times at many instances that we have seen that they have got an excellent plan available on paper, but in reality there's a lot of gap. I'm sure you agree with that, isn't it? Right? There are many instances that happen that we already have very good plan on a paper. We get complete permission, authority, everything on paper as a safe plan. It could be any occupancy, but when it comes to reality, we don't see that much happening, right? So again, we have to see where is the gap. So integrator has equally responsibility to make sure that they execute the plan the way it has been mentioned, the way it has been stated, the way it has been clarified, the way it has been spelled out, right? So that's what a critical role is. And the third and important role again is come to inspection bodies. I mean, when somebody has planned it, somebody has executed it, there has to be a third person who's going to inspect it and say that, okay, yes, I have witnessed it. This is what is acceptable, right? This is what is not acceptable. So there has to be some benchmark. So maybe the codes that you see available in specifically fire segment, fire and life safety segment, that is what is going to help you to understand and make sure that there is a benchmark level. There has to be certain degree of safety which has to be measured and evaluated, and then that can be implemented at particular facilities. So AHJ responsibility is again important. What are the products are going to go inside the facility? Are they listed and approved? Right? Again, it's an inspection body's role, because at many times you have got a good plan on the paper, you've got integrators in place, but then products associated are not equally good or not listed or not approved, then it's a gap of inspection. It's a gap of testing body. It's a gap of authority who is going to issue the permission, right? So again, this is the compliance, but at the same time, it's a very very serious responsibility of getting that compliance processed carefully. So that's a third community, and the fourth and important role is occupant, user, owner, right? It could be anyone. It could be a individual, it could be a body, it could be association, it could be a society, or it could be anything, right? But again, there is a specific stakeholder community which is called occupant, and they are also equally contributing in making sure that the safety compliance is already met. All right, I'm sure you agree with this roles and responsibility. Once we have this clear mindset, then it becomes a very very cohesive approach, and it becomes an integrated activity. And when it comes to a skill level, what is the skill level that we are expecting from each community? If I just categorically starting from pioneers, is what is essentially they need to be looking at is the competent people, right? When we are selecting them, when we are assigning the responsibility of you being an architect, you being an MEP consultant, you being a fire consultant, what is the major first prime? Of course, there are maybe 20, 30 measures you can come up with, but to me, it is very very critical and it's very important. I'm sure you agree with that. Is competency. Are the individual, are the people who are involved in this planner community, are they competent enough or not? That's a key. And then rest can come in place. But the first and prime factor that has to be evaluated as a filtration criteria is competency level. And when it comes to integration level, the important and very critical element is experience in that domain, right? How experienced that? We can't expect a plumber to do fire job. We can't expect electrical to do fire alarm job, right? Because everybody has a different specific role to do, and that's what the experience is. So it's equally important that when we are engaging specific integrators in that particular domain, It could be HVAC, it could be fire, it could be plumbing. Let them be an expert in that particular domain. Let them prove, let them have justification, let them have credentials in that particular domain, so as we know that they are capable, and then we see that the life safety is going to be coming with them. And the last is authority. What authority they have, to what extent they can go and stretch the out, to what extent they have permissible limits to go and stretch. Is it over or is it under? Right. So that's what authority symbolizes the AHA activities. And then last is awareness for occupants. I mean, I come across, I do a lot of audits everywhere, commercial, residential, industrial uh, occupancy. And I see the biggest gap today in India is awareness. People engage a AMC contractor and say, sir, I have got a AMC contract, I'm safe. It's not a fact. Even though you have an AMC contract in place, doesn't mean that you can shy away from your responsibility, right? It's important that you are aware about what others are doing, not to the extent of knowing your technical definition of each and every equipment or a system, but overall you must have an introduction level knowledge or awareness in terms of safety when it comes to life safety, right? I mean, this is very very important because very very common theme, common myth that I have seen, that people consider that when they have a right AMC place, right integrator in place, still if they are ignorant about the systems, means they are safe or they are doing right job. It is not. They are not doing right job because they are not aware about it. They are not involved in their day-to-day operations and maintenance activities. So when it comes to operation and maintenance, people must aware and take up the responsibility. So I think, I'm sure everybody is so far with me on this. If you are with me, just say with me on the chat option. So at least I know that you are listening and you are able to take on what I'm talking about, right? So good. Coming back to the uh, life safety again, I have just come across various case studies and examples, specifically when it comes to life safety. Three ingredients or three elements which are directly impacting to a life, and the first is of course resources. I mean, you go to any society or you go to any industrial complexes, you go to a lot of residential complexes. People have, although there are many people around available here, skilled, unskilled manpower, but when it comes to life safety, people still compromise. They consider that fire role is something maybe done by a security guy, somebody by an admin guy, somebody by HR guy. So there is no dedicated resources. So in terms of resources, I would first point out dedication. People don't give importance for having those dedicated resources. There are many banks that you visit. Uh, Best practices also, I can always see that. I see a lot of people uh, carrying the tag on their table as fire warden. I still feel happy about it because they always feel pride in saying that I'm a fire warden of this particular branch during working hours. Although he is maybe accountant guy, he may be a clerk there, but then he has been given a responsibility as fire warden, which is exactly what we are trying to create a resource for, right? So when I say resources, it doesn't mean that it has to be a dedicated resource, even though it is an add-on responsibility. But then that resources must be skilled, must be trained, must be aware about it, right? So skill training, trained resources is another element that is going to be directly impacting. And the second one is your technology. I mean, what technology are we trying to adapt today when we are in the era of 2020, which is the third decade of this 20th century, 21st century? But then what technology are we looking at? Are we still carrying on the 40-year-old system and then we are happy about it? Or are we upgrading? I mean, today we are using these smartphones, but then if somebody is having a Nokia phone with a keypad, we still feel something abnormal, right? I'm sure you do that, right? So as life safety, people don't upgrade themselves in technology when it comes to life safety, and they have a compromise. They said no, chalta hai. I'm okay with that because to me it looks it's working in condition, right? So it's important that what technology level. It is not necessarily that you have to invest a lot of money in using technology, but then at right stage, at adequate level, based on your risk level, you should be able to mitigate the risk by using the right technology. And there are a lot of technology available at a very insignificant cost. Not necessarily that you have to invest money, but it's important that somebody has to have a look mindset in using that or adapting that technology. So that's a very very critical element when it comes to life street. And then last is procedure. How many people in the industry know that there is a requirement called disaster management plan, emergency plan, off-site, on-site emergency plan? I mean, it's a requirement, right? But then, and it's a requirement. When I say requirement, it's requirement statutorily listed in various documents. It's a Factory Act. It's a dish regulation that is going to be applicable for most of the factory. But unfortunately, people don't give importance on what procedures, because people consider that procedures is going to be only a theoretical way of it. It is just to file it, and that's about it. But I can tell you, based on my experience, procedures are very very important. It could be SOP, standard operating procedures. It could be maintenance guys procedure. It could be first responder procedure. It could be your safety officer procedure. Procedures are going to help people to think and act during emergency. And when you don't have procedures, your mind doesn't work. And then that's how the unsafe act happens. That's how the accident becomes more, and incident can become an accident,
Yeah. So
right?
yeah,
So procedures are going to be helpful for everyone. So Mohit, you want to say something?
yeah, just one on this
Yeah,
slide, maybe something came
yeah,
from me. So what I understand, so
yeah.
one important aspect would be how there is a synchronization between these three elements: resource, technology, and the SOP. Now, two questions. One, how important is also to take this into consideration during planning stage, because most of the times maybe the architects, consultants are more inclined towards the technology aspect rather than the resource and procedure. And secondly,
Correct.
how important it is also to audit this at a level, at a regular frequency, whether this synchronization is still there or there is a mismatch now, where because technology has
There,
upgraded after 2 years but my resource is the same or the SOP is same. Maybe if you could just share some light on this. Yeah.
absolutely. Very good. Excellent question, Mohit. Thank you very much, because that motivates me to elaborate on the topic. Because when I mention about these three ingredients, the gap exists. Like what exactly really you mentioned about technology or a procedures, people work in silos. When when any of the new building that is going to get constructed, and when the architect is involved or an MEP consultant or a fire consultant is involved, he comes and with a silos mind saying that my scope of work is this, and that's about it. Okay, so he has been given a specific task and scope. Even at that point in time, maybe owner also do not have a visibility of what procedures that can have, right? But then the responsibility ends there. The MEP or architect guy ends there the moment the building is finished, and that's how the gap starts. It is again an owner or a user mindset that you need to have, that this is not a complete activity for him, right? It's an extended activity. It's an ongoing activity. So he has to plan, when the moment the building is ready, how I'm going to maintain that, how I'm going to operate it, what are the resources that I would need, what are the procedures that I may have to have, right? So this is what the planning is exist, and that's what the gap comes in, right? So audit again, it is part of the owner responsibility. How frequently they are going to revisit their procedures, how frequently they are going to look at my technology is adequate or not, my risk is maybe altered. Maybe the risk in 1990 was at X level, but in 2019 is at Y level. But is my procedures been amended or not? My equipment, my systems, my resources have been geared up to that risk or not? So this is what the owner perspective. This is what I'm talking about, the occupant role here.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when people do not have that kind of visibility, and that's how the gap comes in, and people don't give importance. I hope I've clarified that, Mohit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And now coming to the main topic here, I'm going to elaborate on 7 steps, guys. And this is not something that copied pasted from Google or from somebody else. It is purely my thought process. I may be little wrong, I may be correct, I do not know. But this is what my firm belief, that even if you have this minimum uh, 7 steps implemented in this particular context, in this particular environment, I can guarantee you. Of course, there is no money that has been given or by by anybody, so I don't have money back guarantee here. But I can tell you, we can achieve a greater degree of safety at every stage, at individual level, at society level, at national level. So this is what I'm going to be touching upon all these 7 steps. So of course you are free to take clips of all these slides, but then if you have any queries, just let me know. So first and foremost, I want to clarify here is that uh, the step that is required is awareness. Okay, and as I mentioned to you at various occasions in my uh, discussion so far, the biggest gap is today people don't keep their eyes and ear open, right? I remember having seen the video on, I think, in one of the social media, in one of the busy airport, there was an alarm generated by a fire alarm system, and it was probably a fire alarm event, but hardly people were attentive. Most of the people, I'm sure, based on my experience, not aware that there is an alarm called this, which is going to asking me to evacuate the building, right? How many people in the industry are actually aware that there is a system installed in their facility, and there is a device called sounder comes true, which is going to give me an alert, and the moment there's an alert, I need to rush, I need to save my life, I need to evacuate the building. Okay, so that's what the people, they don't give importance, awareness, right? That's what the people have that kind of an mindset that, okay, it is not my responsibility, it is somebody else's responsibility. Let somebody tell me that, okay, I need to evacuate, then only I may plan for evacuate. It is not my thought process or my alert level or my awareness level telling me to evacuate the building. If you go to any facility, people do not have that importance. And look at the Kamla Mills incident in Mumbai 4 years back. Exactly the same thing. When they enter into a third floor level, when they use the elevator, people in the midnight, they are checking in the hotel and they do not know, is there an exit available? Is there a staircase available to go down? Look at the irony here. I mean, when we are spending so much of money and having that kind of an ambience, but we are not looking at your own safety. Basic important thing, that whether this facility is going to give me an option to use the staircase in case of emergency. Who is going to tell that? Is it somebody else is going to tell me, or it is not my responsibility to let us know that, okay, there is an exit available? If there is a worker who is going to work in a boiler in a confined space, he is going to put his life in danger. Doesn't mean that he should be aware about the confined space training, the tools, tackles that are required, the knowledge, basic awareness required, the PP is required. Again, the gap is awareness. So I can tell you hundreds of stories, but the basic and foremost gap here is that we don't keep your eyes and ear open. Where I'm entering into an unsafe zone. Let somebody know that, okay, this is my risk level, this is my mitigation level, this is my evacuation plan, this is my emergency kit, this is my emergency contact. Anything that is required for a person to live his life safely or work his life safely, it's important that he or she should be aware what is doing. So awareness is the first gap that I can see in the industry that is important. And do not take this as a negative factor, but it's important that we should take it this as a positive. So if you are aware, I'm sure you can save life. You can not only save your own life, you can save somebody else's life, right? So don't look at every step as a negative step. Look at a positive side of it. If we are aware about the situation that we are going to get in, then probably we can avoid the mistakes. We can avoid the unsafe factor. We can avoid the accidents. We can avoid the life safety hazard, right? So this is basic in nature, but it's very very important. And it is not somebody that we need to have a kind of a certification course on it, right? No need. Just have a basic understanding what you're doing. That's all. And it is not something that it is required to be done by a specific segment of the society. Everyone's responsibility. If a worker is doing an unsafe act, he should know, she should know what he's doing. Okay, if a person is getting into a theater, he or she should know what is my way out, right? So this is what a basic step. So I'm sure you agree with this. And the second date I want to cover is about Egress. Egress is a technical word, so I want to minimize it. I want to make it very, very simple. Evacuation. I'm sure you know this word at least, right? So, as I referred the example of Kamala Mills fire, which is in Bombay incident, which is very, very eye opener. Even you can always remember at any point in time that incident, and there are many incidents that happen. And the first and foremost reason that you see, fire may not be the reason of a death or a tragedy. What is it? Is it the evacuation? It's a bad exit or a blocked exit or not a safe exit, not a speedy exit. That is what the gap is. So it's very, very important that when you get into any facility, make sure that you know your way out. Make sure that you see evacuation plan in place. And it's a message to both for an user, for an occupant. So if the occupant is responsible for their own building, maybe there is an architect, maybe there is a MEP or there is a fire consultant missed out in suggesting them an evacuation plan. Have that in place. It doesn't cost you money so much. Just costs 100 and 200 bucks and 300 bucks. That's all. But it's important that you have a minimum signages available so that people in the facility know that what's the way out. Okay, in case of any dark also, people should know that, okay, this is my exit, this is my safe exit. So there are no staircases which are blocked, there are no doors which are closed, which are locked, right? So it's very, very important for all perspective, for all stakeholders. When I'm going back to the slides, you remember that 5 blocks: AHJ, occupants, planners, integrators. Make sure that everybody should have a focus. Okay, so it is not necessarily important that you go by your books and say that, okay, this is what my scope, but at least educate the occupant, educate the architect, educate the user, saying that this could be a requirement and this could be your responsibility and this could be your action that is required. And today I can tell you, friends, evacuation is the major cause of accident. How many people agree with that? Yeah, can I see some chat boxes? Yes. Yeah. So I'm sure this is an irony of this country, that many malls, many hotels, your fire exits are locked. Okay, and what is the answer you get? This never have been used by anyone at any point in time in last 10 years, in last 20 years, because there is no incident accident. You are not used it, my dear. But there are 200 occupants. Do you expect them to go by only one exit? No way. If there's a stadium which is only one way in and out, and this has been going on since last 10 years, because you do not have an incident. But if there is an incident, tell me how the people are going to evacuate it. And now I can tell you the technology is available. You can always come up with an evacuation modeling. We help with many users in doing so. There is a sophistication way of doing an evacuation modeling where you can actually create a virtual fire. You know the number of occupants. You know exactly what is my available safe evacuation time or required evacuation egress time. So all these things possible. It's only the mindset. Okay, there is no excuse that you can have, but it's only mindset, and people need to be aware about it, and people should have an importance. And third step I want to move on is very, very basic in nature, but again not in common. If you see something, say something. I mean, you can have a lot of social media happening. When the incident happened, you are always very, very active, saying that, okay, there's a fire here, there's a smoke here, there are two deaths here. But are we vigilant enough to say something when you see a blocked door, when you see a hydrant which is not with the hoses, a hydrant wall which is not with the lever, okay, a sprinkler which is having with a cap, a detector with a cap? You don't need to have a very, very technical trained session on knowing what is fire system, but just have a basic understanding. Look at the top on every ceiling and see what that detector is going to do. If it is blinking, you know that I can see that it's live in nature, right? It's a very common sense. If you think that it is not blinking, just go and report to the safety officer in that particular building, saying that probably your detector system panel is off. Take the picture, put it in social media. I think we can do it, right? And if you do it right, I don't think so any politician is going to beat you. But if you go against with any politician, probably there are chances that he will go against and grudge against it. But if you send a clip of any mall, of any building, and a fire alarm panel is switched off, and send a pic, send a location, and put it on social media. I'm sure you are helping the society ultimately. You are helping that user. Maybe that user may not be aware that my fire alarm system is off. But thank you to you that you told me that today is off, right? And I can tell you there are most of the installation in the industry where fire alarm is been installed only at the stage of NOC, no objection certificate. After that, it's been never maintained, it's been never put off in normal condition. Yes or not? So this is irony. Fire alarm system is a life safety system by technically, by codes and standard, by any mandate. But how much importance are we able to give it? And it is not only the facility manager's job, my dear, it is everybody's responsibility. So go to mall, go for a shopping. I'm sure you will have an opportunity after 6 months to go to any mall so far, based on the production that I can see. But in case, keep your eyes and open and use your social media for this event also. Don't look at only the selfies and send the photographs of particular hotel or a facility that you are checking in, but also take a time out and sending that alert saying that you have seen something which is not going to work, which is not something that people should be aware about it, right? And there are many ways, and I have showed you only a couple of them, but I can tell you there are many ways that you can always use a common sense. It is not against anybody's, bad mouthing. It is not against anybody's. We are not going against them. It is for everybody's safety, right? So make sure that when you check in the hotel, ask that questions. What is your evacuation plan? Where is the evacuation plan? And I can tell you, if you have that practice available, have that tendency in place, the entire picture of this country will change. I can guarantee. But this is what is important, and then I think everybody's contribution is needed in the industry. There are many incidences that we see at home. Just given a very common example, many people are still using LPG gas as a media to in their kitchen, right? And how many times we pay attention to replace that tube which is carrying LPG, to replace it every year. What will happen? We will wait for a smell to come, and then when that comes in, we will try to replace it, isn't it? How much it is going to cost? $100, $150. That's all. But for that also, we will wait for an event to occur, and then only we act on it. Very simple example, but very common to in nature. So we give less importance to the event that can happen. So near miss. This is what I said. So in case even if there is ironing that is happening in your household, make sure that if there is a wire which is going to give you any kind of a overheating smell, make sure that you act quickly. So it is called near miss. Near miss is not something that you are injured, but we are less injured. We are not dead. So that means it is a near miss. It is not. Near miss technically means that any event that could have happened, it could be minor, it could be major, but then you should report that. You should make sure that you correct it. You make sure that you correct the action at instantly. So at your household level, at your society level, at your plant level, at your workplace level, wherever that is applicable, make sure that we pay attention to all near misses. And I can tell you, there are very less safety experts who are going to focus on near miss. People consider that you've got to register, and specifically in corporate sector, there is a mechanism called accident history, right? So you are supposed to, a safety officer is supposed to report it there in case there is an event occurred. Is it a fatality or is it a minor or a major? And then that's how he posted in his book, and he has been signed by all the superiors, and his job is done. But ultimately, what? I mean, of course, I'm not saying that that's a bad job. It's a job that is required to monitor your accident history specifically. But how many near misses are actually also getting reported? A person who is a ladder, if suppose somehow somebody else would have helped him in not falling down, instantly at that time because he was around, but it's a near miss. So what actions that he need to take care so that next time when he uses the ladder and he does the job using the ladder, what precautions that he has to take, what PP he has to take, what procedure that he need to know, what training specifically he need to know. So that is what is near miss. So again, it's very important that everybody in the society whether it is house at our workplace, make sure that we pay attention to the near miss, and we report it and we act on it very very quickly. Important, guys, is product. It's not important that we have a right people involved in place. It's again supported by the right product. And specifically, when it comes to life safety and that to a fire and life safety domain, people do not give that much of importance. I mean, now probably I can see the trend happening. Chinese product. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it in this forum, but then I think we should be very very cautious and careful about selecting your product. And fortunately, in specifically life safety codes, you have got a very written guidelines, understanding given what kind of a product that has been used. There are authentic third-party laboratory available, like Underwriters Laboratory UL. I'm sure you must have heard. Factory Mutual, FM Global. These are predominantly in India. We have got Bureau of Indian Standard, right? So there are many third-party reputed test laboratories are available, which will authenticate your fire door is certified for 2 hours, which will authenticate that the hydrant wall is meant for this particular application. This support is basically meant for your fire system piping. So every product or a system that you are using it when it comes to life safety is been tested and approved by third party, and then there is a certificate available. There is a authentic uh, stamp available. There are documentation available to look at those credentials. So, but then again, awareness. People should know that this is a right product for them, and this is what has been uh, looked at by the occupant when they are looking at it. So again, AHJ is responsibility, but apart from AHJ, it's important that the occupant also should know that they are using the right product. I mentioned you fire doors, very very classic example, right? How many people consider that my building has got a or my facility has got a 2 hour rated or a half-hour rated fire rated or just a wooden door? It's very very hard to differentiate that, right? So as your equipment, so as your systems, whether it's a sprinkler, whether it's a detector, whether it's a pipe, whether it's a pump, whether it's a cable, whether it's a support, anything that you think of which is going to protect your life and property must be listed and approved. And it is not me who's saying it, is the code who's saying it. Okay, so it's important that we pay attention to it and we try and use that in our facility so that we take care of it, right? First aid appliances. I mean, I'm not looking at only a first aid means a crocin, a paracetamol, a first aid bandbox. No. If you're using a even extinguisher in your house or in a facility, is it been considered as a first aid appliances? What is first aid is nothing but the first aid means that is a stuff that is going to help you to protect your life or a property, right? So it is a first aid. So fire extinguisher is considered as a first aid. Why? Because it is supposed to be used by anyone. It can be a housewife, it can be a security guard, it can be fire officer, or it can be anyone, right? And it is to be used at the first 10 minutes of incident so that your fire doesn't get propagated. Okay. If a person is going to be collapsed, in that first 10 minutes, if you are able to respond him quickly, maybe CPR, maybe AR, maybe lifting him to the nearby first aid center or a hospital, so that first 10 minutes is very, very critical. So how we are going to be geared up in doing that, right? At many facilities, again, this is very, very important that we have a uh, kit available, we have equipment available, we have procedures available, we have systems available to treat people in case of any event, in case of any emergency, right? So first aid is not restricted only to the paracetamol or band-aid here. It is applicable to all your systems that are going to be needed to respond as a first aid responder, okay, first responders. So that's important that we have those kits available which is visible, accessible. It should not be hidden in the table and then it is locked. Nobody knows where it is been kept, right? It will happen. I've seen at many places, industrial spaces specifically, where they have a issue with snakes. So there are a lot of snakes in the vicinity, and it's a 50-acre plant, and there are 5,000 employees working there. And since it's a kind of a open land or a area with open access with a lot of plants, there are a lot of snakes around. So what is the danger for them? Snake biting. So don't you think that they should have a first responder in case that event happens? and it should be accessible, it should be visible, it should be available at any point in time, every time. So again, basic awareness is important for them to treat them, because that's going to be common for them, right? So for them, extinguisher may not be not only this first aid device. For them, the snake bite is again important. How to treat them, what actions they need to take, what training is required for them. Okay, so first aid is again a very important topic. It's not just limited to a box and having a sticker as first aid box. Many people still carry that image that first aid means only a green square box in a box which is kept at the reception, and that's about it. And in that box you will see only paracetamol, crocin, band-aid, that's all. So please don't look at that. It's little serious topic, and everybody should pay attention. And again, it is a integrated approach. It is not just MEP consultant can probably put it as a BOQ. It is the owner perspective, it is the owner mindset, and how he can protect his facility and his people around, right? So far it's going good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you are with me, just say yes. It's going good. So I know, at least I know that it's not a one way, and it's helping everyone to um, know what I'm talking is making sense, right? It's not be just one way. So I'm sure you are with me. So just say yes. So at least I have a motivation to continue the session for next 10-15 minutes so far. Yeah, good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharad. So last point I want to touch about here is the seventh step is combination of three P's. Again, it's my verb that I've used it here as a 3P plan, right? And it's combination of three P's. What are the three P's? First is prepare. Right now, we are all in Indians in a preparation mode, right? How to deal with COVID-19. Okay, and that's how we are in a mode. We never thought that this will happen, so that's why we never prepared for it. And now, after the incidents or during the incidents, we are preparing ourselves to deal with that scenario, right? So don't you think that this is a learning curve for us? So if any event that could happen to you, it could be your housing complex, it could be your building, it could be school, it could be hotel, it could be hospital, wherever you are working, wherever you are staying. How prepared are you in dealing with emergency when it comes to life safety? And again, I have already elaborated at length the preparation environment. It could be combination of your technology, it could be process, it could be procedures, equipment, anything that sort. Training and awareness. Okay, it's important. So how we are able to prepare ourselves in dealing with that scenarios. It could be any emergency, and it not to be just fire. It could be anything. So how I'm going to deal with that situation? How prepared are we? Ourselves mentally and physically both in dealing that situation. That's the first and foremost part of 3P plan. And then second is prevention. So in case that event happens, to protect that, what safety gears that I have? Do I have enough PPEs available? Okay, like today we are talking about masks everywhere, right? I can see a lot of messages floating around that I need this mask, I need that many masks. Can you import? Can you supply? Okay, so we never thought that masks can be used anywhere else or during these events, right? We are trying to prevent what ourselves. So what PPEs are we looking at? Okay, what kind of a degree level that we are looking at? How many numbers are we looking at? Okay, when it comes to facility, is my meter room, electrical room, been protected by a fire door? Again, it's part of prevention, so that the smoke doesn't get into outside the meter room. Is my staircase, which is going to be used as a egress, is it been protected so that there is no smoke which is going to pass through from the lobby area? So again, it's part of prevention strategy. So these are the various ways and means to prevent your life and property. So how I'm going to be geared up to that. And last is protection. In case any event happens beyond my preparation, beyond my prevention practices, event can happen. There is no control on that. You have no control on any event that can happen. But in case that happens, how adequately I'm ready to protect myself. Okay, so what fire protection system that I have, what safety protection that I have, what smoke protection that I have, what life safety protection devices that I have. So these are questions that you have to ask yourself at workplace, at wherever you are living in, and probably you will have a lot of insight. Then you will see a lot of gaps. Then you will come up with a lot of ideas. You'll come up with a lot of action plans, right? So this is what basic is needed, and it is not required something that you need to be an engineer for it. You need to have a very very certified um, professional for understanding this concept. It is a very very common. That's what I kept it at very very basic level, fundamentally, so that everyone in this community knows what is their role,
Great.
right? It need not to be anything specific. Yes, Mohit, you want to say something?
No, I think very well said. Also,
Yeah,
I guess
very well.
it's can be now open for questions. Maybe if anyone has.
Yes,
So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I guess Apurva had to say something. He had raised his hand. So if Apurva, you
Okay.
are still there, maybe if you want to ask, please.
Yes,
Okay.
I think you need to unmute him, if at all.
He himself can also do. Just one minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done. So Apurva, you are
Okay.
unmuted. So if you want to ask,
Yeah, no, he
please.
said no question, so I
Okay.
think
Okay. Great.
we
Great.
do
Okay.
not have. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
fair enough. So good. So you can always put a chat option, so Mohit can read it for you, and then Mohit can ask it. Absolutely no hesitations. We have time. But all I wanted to talk about here is basic bottom line: is be vigilant. Keep your eyes and ear open. Look at around an facility. Need not to be a You need to be a safety expert. You need to be fire expert. As a common citizen, pay attention to what's going on inside your facility. Okay, what's my life is in danger. Okay, have that opportunity of this time specifically in educating people around. If in case you are aware about your little bit on safety, make sure that you train your community. Like what exactly I'm doing it for everyone, right? We are not getting paid. There is nothing that we have a mindset even to make money out of this. It's all about awareness. It's all about giving back to community, right? So if you little bit know about it, make sure that you educate enough to your in and around facility, so that in this particular period, people are aware, people are educated, people are trained, and they can probably take precautions for this. And let it be ongoing exercise further after COVID incidents also. And then what is important is that take responsibility of your own safety. It is not that AMC contractor is responsible for your fire safety. Please do not have that myth in your mind that okay, if I have a licensed agency on board to maintain my system, that means I am safe. No, it is equally your responsibility. If any fire incidents happen, your system doesn't operate, you are also equally responsible. So when it comes to life safety, you cannot delegate that responsibility to somebody else. I want to make it very very clear, sound, and crystal clear here, so that everybody can understand their own responsibility. It is your life, it is your property. Make sure that you take that responsibility, you take that accountability. It is not somebody else. You are when you are appointing a AMC contractor, that means you are only doing your duty. It is your duty to appoint a contractor. That's all. But doesn't mean that you are actually shifting your responsibility and then say that okay, it's your fault, it's not my fault. So that's all I want to say about it. And probably lastly, of course, I want to say in this period, take this opportunity to be at home. Don't go out. I can see a lot of people around going out and risking their life, even though although they are trained and educated, bombarded with information like this that you need to be staying at home. But then people are still taking that responsibility of going out. So
Yeah.
make sure that you are at home and taking care of your safety. So now forum is open for chat. So I would
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
ask
Okay.
Mohit to pick up the
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
in case
Yeah.
you have.
Questions. I guess Mr. Rajiv Kubal, you wanted to say something. Maybe if you want to, please. Maybe I'm just unmuting you. Yeah. Please.
Hello.
Yeah. We can hear you. Please.
Yeah. See this, Hemant. I must say, fantastic efforts, and I really enjoyed your, this webinar. I just wanted to say something. You have said prepare, prevent, and protect. When I, as a safety professional, I little bit reword it. I say predict, protect, and prevent. Predict is basically your awareness. If you can predict, basically, if you are aware, you can predict. And if you predict, then you actually protect. And when you protect, you make it as a habit. And because of that habit, you are going to prevent that kind of situation. Just wanted to say that, and that is why when during any camp, if there is a kitchen staff. Then what I used to ask them whenever, I just used to go inside and say fire, fire, fire. And if all those people, they look at the fire extinguisher place where the fire extinguisher is, that means they are aware. So this is a simple test. When you are just saying something and people react in a way that they are aware, then you can say, and you are having tremendous experience on auditing. So you may be having many more, things like this to test, awareness. I would appreciate if that kind of, tips you can share with us. It will be a great help for us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your,
Thank you,
efforts and
Rajiv. Thank
initiative.
you.
Thanks.
Well taken.
Yeah. Okay. So there is one question. So there is a participant from Sri Lanka. So his question is, for high-rise buildings in India, do customers sign annual maintenance contracts for maintenance of fire system?
Yes, my friend Adrian, how are you? Good to hear your voice and show up your face. Thank you very much. So your question, yes, we have a norms in India specifically, and when I say norms, it is not only coming as a best practice, but it is coming from the local acts or a state act that they need to sign up an AMC contract and give an kind of a compliance certificate periodically. So maybe every 6 months they need to furnish in the form of some compliance certificate to the local fire bodies. So it has been considered as a statutory compliance having AMC contract in place. So yeah, probably that you can implement it in Sri Lanka as well. I hope I've answered it.
So great. So if no more questions, maybe from my side, I think very informative, where if I want to summarize it, so it's like the 7 steps what you told can be looked as a checklist by the 5 stakeholders that you said based on their scope of work. So based on my, maybe a planner, whether I am taking into consideration all the awareness aspects in my design. From a building owner perspective, he can see whether all the first aid needs and all. So these were not only the steps, but yes, the same steps can be applied by each stakeholders as a checklist when they are performing or when they are designing their role. Yeah, like that. So
Absolutely.
so quite informative from that aspect. And maybe I can ask Anik now, maybe if he could just give us some closing remarks.
Hey, thanks, Mohit. Before I go into that, I can see there is a question from Nitin. Nitin, you had a question. If you can please ask that.
Yeah, hi, Hemant and
Please go ahead.
from Corning India, Pune plant.
Hi.
This question, it was a very informative session. To my question is like, mock drills are important. What we have seen, what we have been training, mock drills are important, but awareness is very low. So can you just light how to improve the awareness?
Sorry, rephrase your question, Nitin. You said mock drill is good, and then how to improve that?
Yes.
Okay.
Means what we have seen, the mock drills. Yeah.
So he said
Yeah.
awareness is a bit less. So how can that be increased? So what are the steps that can be taken to increase the awareness?
Yes.
Yeah, very good question that you asked, Nitin, and I'm sure you are representing a community as the owner community or user community.
Yes.
So if I look at it in terms of your stakeholder or your responsibility point of view, how to increase this is nothing but the first and foremost, keep yourself inventing, reinventing, in updating your knowledge and awareness. Yeah. So today, of course, we are spending heavily a good amount of time in educating and learning ourselves, but learning should be an ongoing activity. If that happens, mock drill is one of the event that can happen maybe every 6 months or every 1 year, but that lasts for half an hour or 1 hour maximum. But we should not restrict only to the extent of mock drill, because I have seen mock drill. We also do mock drill at many places, but then the way, in fact, we added a lot of glamour into mock drills. We are not just limiting to only operating of extinguishers. So there are many ways, but what I'm saying is that training is the key. If you keep your passion and your colleagues involved in terms of education and training them, empowering them on safety, I'm sure automatically that level goes up. interest goes up and the involvement goes up. Today, why there is involvement less? Even in terms of mock drill, I'm sure you will agree with me. There are hardly one-liner or first-liner people are actually engaged, but the backbench people are not even engaged because they consider that it's very pain for me that you have to be there in the sunny days and stand there and look at what others are doing because they are not engaged. So training has to have an engagement activity. Once that happens, then involvement comes in, then the responsibility comes in, the accountability comes in. So have that integration done in your training. So it could be in-house, it could be external, it could be a combination of both. Okay, but once you have effective way of mechanism built into your organization, automatically that level will go up, engagement will go up, involvement will go up, and the responsibility also will go up.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you, Nitin.
Thanks, Hemant.